The orchard had always whispered. Neva knew its every murmur the way the wind rustled through petals that shimmered with blue-laced veins. The hush of fruit-heavy branches swaying under dawn's first light. The trees here did not bear names. In the human sense, they were old, older than even her grandmother's breath songs. They were sacred. To harm them was to forget one's place in the living world. And yet, war had found them. Neva crouched beside a fallen branch, fingers brushing its burned edge. The sap still wept golden tears. Her long, lilac-toned arms trembled. The fires had reached this far. She thought the invaders would keep to the highlands where the air was sharp and the soil thin. But no, even the sacred groves had not been spared. Behind her, leaves crackled. She turned, holding her pruning shears like a blade. "I have no fruit left to give," she called, voice low but steady. "You'll find only ash." The man who stepped from behind the scorched trellis was not one of her people. His skin was darker than any she had seen, not from pigment, but from soot and blood. Burn marks cut jagged lines across his bare arms. He wore a torn jacket tied around his waist, and a utility belt that hummed faintly with dying tech. His hair was short, unevenly cut. His eyes, one bruised nearly shut, locked on her like he wasn't sure if she was real. That she should have run. Instead, she stepped forward. "You're not Arashi," she said softly. "I'm not," he croaked, his voice ragged like bark peeled wrong. I was hiding in the foothills. I saw the fires. Thought maybe." He fell to his knees. Neva gasped, her pruning shears clattering to the soil. She hesitated only a moment before rushing forward, sliding her arms under his and easing him down beside the roots of a blossom-shade tree. The tree's branches bent protectively over them, its silken leaves sighing in the wind. "Why are you here?" she whispered, dabbing a cloth to his lips. "There are no humans in this province. You're not one of the diplomats, are you? A soldier?" His laugh was bitter. "No, not anymore." By dusk, Neva had set up a hammock between two trees and laid the man there. He slept feverishly, muttering things she didn't understand. Names, commands, apologies. She brought crushed core root and smeared it over his wounds. She soaked his jacket and boiled what little water remained in the orchard's basin. He woke once and tried to apologize again. "You should have left me," he murmured. "I don't leave the wounded," she replied, "even those from death worlds." His eyes flicked to hers, then sharp despite his condition. "You know what that means." "I've read the old treaties," she said. "Our historians warned us about your kind. But I also know war isn't born in blood, it's taught." "Are you going to hurt me?" "No," she nodded. "Then I will treat you as I treat anyone who falls beneath a dying tree." His name was Joren. She learned this on the third day, when the fever broke and he could finally drink water without coughing it back up. He sat beside her beneath the central blossom shade, watching the sun rise over hills that had once gleamed with fruiting vines. Now they glowed faintly with embers. "Your people," he said slowly. "They really thought the war wouldn't come here. We are farmers, singers, makers. We thought neutrality would protect us. It didn't." She didn't answer. Instead, she passed him a ripe sheo fruit, one of the last. He took it reverently. "I haven't had anything fresh in weeks," she smiled, then chewed slowly. They worked together to salvage what remained. Joren, still limping from his injuries, helped her carry broken trellises into the grove's heart. Neva taught him how to use the grove's hummingbird drones to pollinate what few blooms had survived. He taught her how to recognize the low hum of scouting ships, even when cloaked behind cloud cover. When the fires returned, it wasn't the flames that scared her most, it was the sky, lit in blue and green pulses, silent but watching. "The Higem raiders," Joren muttered, squinting at the shimmer above. "They're sweeping for survivors. Will they find us?" He glanced at the grove. "Maybe, but the trees are thick, and you've done something smart." She blinked. "What?" "You didn't rebuild the boundary lights. No heat signatures, no energy pulses, just silence." Neva exhaled, suddenly cold. "I didn't think about it. I just didn't want to use the power." Joren gave her a half smile. "Sometimes survival's in what you don't do." Nights grew colder. Joren sat beside her in silence one evening. A blanket of woven grove fiber wrapped around them both. Above them, stars flickered. Below, soft roots pulsed faintly with warmth. The blossom shades were dying, but not fast, not yet. "Why did you come here?" she asked. His reply came slowly. "I ran. I was on a freighter transporting refugees. We got hit in the upper stratosphere. Some of us landed. Others didn't." Neva nodded, absorbing the words. "I came here because I thought no one would follow," he continued. "I was wrong. You weren't," she said. "Not yet. You found shelter. And you found me." Their eyes met. A heartbeat passed long and fragile. He leaned forward, hesitant. His fingers brushed the side of her face. Her skin warmed. She didn't pull away. The kiss was quiet. There were no declarations, no swelling melodies, only the soft sigh of leaves and the distant roll of thunder. His lips were cracked, hers were unsure, but the moment between them was re-anchored in shared ruin. When they parted, he kept his forehead against hers. "I'm not a good man," he whispered. "I'm not a brave one," she replied. They both smiled. The next morning, the orchard burned again, not from bombs but from betrayal. A survivor had spotted the smoke from Niva's cooking fire days before. A distress beacon had gone up, and the Higem raiders had returned in force, hungry for survivors, for labor, for fuel. Joren woke first. He shook her gently. "Neva, we have to go." She blinked, confused, until she heard the drones overhead. "They've found us," he said. "No," she whispered. "No, not the grove." Joren was already packing supplies to fruit satchels, the last clean water. A beacon jammer he had barely finished salvaging. "We can't save the trees, but we can save us." Neva looked around. Her grove, her life was lit with flickering shadows. She grabbed her pouch of seeds. "I won't leave empty-handed," she said. They ran. Through fire and ash, down a tunnel of once living beauty. Neva and Joren fled the orchard. The blossom shades screamed as they died, petals curling into smoke, roots cracking beneath raider boots. A drone swooped low. Joren turned and fired just once, his salvaged pistol glowing hot. The drone spun wildly and crashed through the heart-tree. Niva cried out, but he pulled her forward. "There's a riverbed to the east," he panted. "Dry now, but the canyon walls are high. We can lose them." "How far?" 3 kilometers. They ran harder. When they reached the dry riverbed, Neva collapsed, coughing. Her robes were scorched. Her fingers, still curled around the seed pouch, trembled. Joren knelt beside her. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head. "I lost it," she whispered. "All of it." He looked back toward the smoke rising behind them. "No," he said. "You brought something." He placed his hand over hers, wrapping her fingers around the seeds. "You'll plant again." "Where?" "Wherever we end up." Her eyes filled. "Joren, what happens now?" He leaned forward, his forehead against hers again. "Now, we survive. Then we build, and then we plant." Neva looked at him, this haunted, broken man from a world that burned hotter than hers ever had, and saw not war, not death, but something soft. "You'll stay with me?" she asked. He nodded. "Even if the trees never grow back, I'll wait 1,000 years for one leaf," he whispered. She smiled. And so they disappeared into the smoke, 2 lovers beneath a burning sky, holding nothing but hope and a pouch of seeds. The orchard had whispered once. Now, the wind carried their promise. Their alike quiet, the hum of low-gravity stabilizers, the distant rhythm of comet debris dancing off the outer shields, the soft pulsing of her satellite's core, like a heartbeat muffled through distance. But today, even silence trembled. She hovered above the console, 3 slender fingers hovering over the monitor. Her blue-gray skin flickered faintly under the satellite's inner glow. She adjusted the spectral interface again. Still no response from Irashiel. 3 hours since last transmission, she murmured to herself. Still no planetary signal. Unacceptable. Outside her viewport, the edge of the nebula glittered. Unchanged. No ships, no fleets, nothing but stars. But her gut told her something had fractured. Her antennae twitched. Another fragment of static crackled from the audio line, a sound so distorted it nearly resembled a scream. She copied the pattern, ran it through translation, then again. Still gibberish. Unless it wasn't their language at all. 2. The human who wouldn't speak arrived in a rescue pod half melted from re-entry. Hull slagged, atmosphere seal compromised. A miracle he was even alive. Crash vector from Irashil. The recovery drone reported. Unknown biometrics on board. He will not speak. Dara blinked, stepping closer to the pod as it hissed open. Inside was a man, shorter than expected. Pale, ash-colored skin. His chest heaved like he'd been running for a century. Scars covered one arm in tangled layers old burns, some etched with jagged surgical precision. One eye was bloodshot. His lips, cracked and sealed shut. His expression was unreadable, not fear, not even anger, just exhaustion. You came from Irashil? She asked. He stared. My name is Dara. I speak 16 tongues. Yours might be one of them. Can you try? He simply raised one hand and traced a series of swift, graceful shapes in the air. A language, but not vocal. She blinked again. Sign? You're mute. He nodded. She whispered. You're a Deathworlder. He didn't flinch. 3. Translation through Tuck. Learning human sign language was difficult enough when taught by an academy tutor. Learning it from a survivor of a fallen world, through nothing but gesture and silence, was maddening. But Dara was nothing if not meticulous. The man, his name was Milo, used a blend of structured sign and personal shorthand. At first, they needed a translation pad. Later, Dara started understanding the emotion behind each movement. Not just the message but the intent, the weight of it. You were there when Irashil was attacked. She asked once. Milo signed. Yes. Fire. Ships. Screams. All gone. Her breath caught. How did you escape? Didn't they let me live? Why? Milo hesitated, then signed slowly. Because they wanted me to tell others, to warn them, to watch it burn. Dara reached out, tentatively, and touched the back of his hand. His fingers were rough, calloused, but still warm. He didn't pull away. 4. Music in the silence. She played music to fill the voids between their conversations. At first, Milo seemed indifferent. Then one day, while she played a simple 3-note pattern on her stringboard, he reached out and stopped her. Then replayed it. Wrong notes, jumbled rhythm, off-tempo, but with such intent that her breath caught. It was a memory, a song. You're home? She asked. He nodded. She tried to learn it. Over days, they played it together. Piece by flawed piece, no translation pad, no sign. Just strings and silence, and shared grief. 5. Echoes from a dying world. When the relay finally caught a signal fragment from Irashil. It wasn't a rescue call. It was a recording. Hundreds of voices, screaming in a dozen languages. Fire, alarms, explosions. One word repeated. Run, run, run. Then a sound, low, layered, inhuman. Like machinery howling. Milo turned pale the instant he heard it. He signed frantically. Them. That's them. Not pirates. Not normal. What are they? He struggled. Then signed. The kindling. There's blood ran cold. She'd heard myths about death machines who started wars just to watch civilizations scream. But they weren't real. Couldn't be unless. They're coming here, she whispered. Milo nodded. 6. The meaning of vengeance. Sethi began fortifying the satellite, though it was hardly a fortress. There are open comms to any listening stations. Most were dark. Then came a flicker of a response from a fringe relay to any survivor's hold. Deathworld fleet en route. She stared at Milo. Your people. He nodded, slowly. She swallowed. Are they as ruthless as the legends say? His hands moved faster than usual, desperate. They don't come to save. They come to punish. If you're between them and vengeance. Move. 7. The first kiss. Thyara didn't know how long they had. But stars, she couldn't wait any longer. That night, she sat beside him at the viewport, both of them staring at the brightening horizon. No words. He signed softly. You're not afraid of me. Double quotes. No. Double quotes. Why? Because even your silence is honest. She leaned in. He hesitated, then closed the gap. It was brief, gentle, a connection of warmth in the coldness of orbit. Not perfect, but real. For a moment, the galaxy fell quiet again. 8. When Fire Araved's kindling ships blinked into view like metal hornets, Dara had no defenses. Her satellite was meant to observe, not fight, But she didn't flee. Because in that moment, the stars shifted. Dozens of dark ships emerged from the void, jagged, brutal silhouettes. No signals, no greetings, just power. The Deathworlders had arrived. They didn't ask questions. They struck, one after another. Kindling vessels vanished into flaming wreckage. No mercy, no hesitation, just retribution. Milo stood beside her, fists clenched, trembling. Will they survive? She asked. He signed, some, enough. 9. The survivors packed after the battle. Her satellite floated above a graveyard of metal. Milo watched the last kindling craft drift into darkness. He signed, they won't stop. You'll need to choose. Choose to be peaceful or to live. She thought of her old beliefs, then looked at him. I choose both, if you'll stay. He nodded, smiled for the first time. Then we begin again, together. The survivors of the ambushed freighter Swanlight barely had time to breathe. After the Deathworlder fleet's arrival, the enemy known as the Delvid scattered into warp in less than 2 minutes. Wreckage still drifted in the void. Fires on the Swanlight's lower decks flickered through blown-out hulls, dim as fading stars. But peace was no certainty, not with the Deathworlders still in orbit. Taylor watched from the bridge of the Swanlight, her breathing shallow inside a battered, rebreather mask. The screen in front of her was cracked and bleeding light. Beyond it, a fleet of obsidian ships floated in perfect formation. No signals, no demands, just presence. Deathworlders, in all their myth-drenched terror. They're not moving, said Sen. I think they're scanning us. They saved us, Taylor said, not fully convinced. But that doesn't mean we're safe. Sen said nothing. No one in the crew of the Swanlight knew the Deathworlders' language. Not really. Their languages were coded with intent, often interpreted through neural pulse translators that failed more often than they succeeded. Half their words could be word declarations or lullabies, depending on tone and rhythm. Shipwide. Prepare for contact, she said. Medical deck. Triage in place. Engineering. Keep stabilizers hot. We're not drifting when they decide what to do with us. She sat back in the command chair, heart hammering. She remembered the stories. Everyone did. Deathworlders didn't come for politics. They didn't come for negotiation or salvage. They came for answers, and when they got them, they left only the stars behind, or they didn't leave at all. It took another hour before the first contact signal arrived. It wasn't a voice, not exactly. It was an image, a slow rotation of the Swanlight's hull, patched together with precision. Then a symbol, a burning tree curled around a black star. Teyla froze. That's not their war mark. She whispered. No, said Sen, eyes wide. It's a mourning sigil. Deathworlders mourned. Before she could process it, the lights on the bridge flickered. The console blinked red. Someone was on their network. An artificial voice came next. Low, clear, undeniably. Translated, Swanlight. Identify casualties. All casualties, Taylor murmured. They want a list. Sen started running a report. Sending what we have. Seconds passed. Then the voice returned. 27. Confirmed dead. For critically wounded. 1. The voice paused. Of interest. What do they mean? Taylor whispered. Another ping. A coded visual request. Taylor opened the feed. The view flickered, then focused on the medbay, where one of the wounded lay unconscious. A man named Varek, engineer, Taylor's friend. He'd taken a plasma shard to the chest, shielding a group of evacuees. Why him? Before Sen could answer, the Deathworlder fleet moved, not toward the Swanlight, but outward, defensive formation. Then the main warship, the largest of them all, more fortress than vessel, extended a docking tunnel. A direct invitation. Teyla didn't want to go, but she did. She wore no weapon. The Deathworlders would have known if she had. Instead, she carried Varek's medical file in her hand, a show of intent, of openness. As she crossed the docking tunnel, the gravity shifted. Warmer, denser. The air prickled like an electric storm. The interior of the Deathworlder ship was nothing like the rumors. It wasn't dark and spiked and terrifying. It was quiet, monastic, almost. Smooth black surfaces, low pulses of light, oxygen-rich air, and a figure waited for her. Not in armor, not even armed. The Deathworlder who stood before her was tall, nearly 7 feet, but not monstrous. He wore a plain black uniform, his expression unreadable behind a lattice-like mask that pulsed softly with his breath. His eyes were human, or close. "You are the one who spoke first," he said. "I'm the Swanlight's captain," she said. Cautious, "You were brave." That startled her. "You spoke in your tongue, despite knowing we might misread your signals." "I had to. We were dying." The Deathworlder tilted his head. "And yet, you risked error." We had no time for silence. For a moment, the corridor was quiet. Then the Deathworlder stepped aside. "Follow. He has something." "Varek," the Deathworlder nodded once. She followed him into what could only be described as a sanctuary. And there, surrounded by soft lights and biodiagnostic clouds, lay Varek, conscious. "Taylor," he rasped. "Am I dead?" "Not yet," she whispered, rushing to his side. Varek's eyes turned toward the Deathworlder. "He saved me," he murmured. "No, not saved. Recognized me." "What do you mean?" The Deathworlder turned toward her. "He carries a signal. One we've been hunting." Taylor went cold. "What signal?" "He knows things. Not from your worlds, not from ours. Something older." Varek coughed. "It's the core." The Deathworlder nodded. "The origin code." 2 hours later, Taylor stood at the edge of their war map, a projection of stars, spinning and shifting. The Deathworlders were not just responding to Swanlight's distress. They were tracking something ancient, a pattern in the attacks, the ambushes, the distress calls across the outer rim. "We thought the Delve were just pirates," Taylor said. "They are being guided," the Deathworlder responded. "Not by will, by signal. It bleeds into them, pushes them to lash out." "And Varek, his implant," the Deathworlder explained. "It's from a system we lost centuries ago. It resonates now because the signal returned." Taylor stepped back. "So what now?" The Deathworlder turned to face her fully. "Now we end the transmission." They let her return to the Swanlight with Varek. He was stable barely, but something in him had changed. He spoke of dreams that weren't his, names he shouldn't know, locations that flickered behind his eyelids like ghost maps. The Swanlight's crew kept a respectful distance from the Deathworlders after that. Until the 4th day. When the sky burned again. It wasn't the Delve this time. It was something else, something even the Deathworlders hadn't expected. A vessel that blinked into their sector like a wound alive, metallic, and wrong. The Deathworlders scrambled, their fleet turning formation like an animal circling its young. Taylor watched it unfold from her ship's screen. "Is that one of theirs?" "No," Sen said softly. That's not from our galaxy at all." The new ship didn't broadcast anything. It simply opened, and the signal returned. Varek screamed in his cut. His eyes went black. The Deathworlders launched every weapon they had. The stars had fallen quiet. Not literally, ships still buzzed through local space. Calms still flickered in the background of every cockpit, and the tactical feeds still pulsed with colored trajectories. But in the core of Commander Arlen's chest, silence reigned. It was the kind that came before a collision, the hush before the scream of metal tearing through metal. "Status?" Arlen asked, voice even, face lit by the cold blue glow of the bridge. "Enemy fleet is holding 8 carriers, 24 warframes, several strike wings. They're not moving in yet, but they're posturing. Arlen gave a humorless smile. "So they want us to fire first." The nav officer didn't reply. She didn't have to. Everyone on the Blackridge's bridge knew what was at stake now. The Deathworlder fleet hadn't struck first in a century. They didn't need to. They were called when diplomacy failed, when screams echoed into the void, and no one else dared listen. And someone had screamed. The planet was small, unnamed, not charted in the primary stellar maps. It wasn't even supposed to have a population, let alone one begging for help. But the call had gone out, encrypted, scattered, bounced through forbidden channels until it reached the only place it could have found mercy. A child's voice, cracking through static. "They're burning the trees." They said, "Our people don't count. Please, please someone." The Blackridge had pivoted so hard her FTL bruised the air. That had been 3 standard days ago. And now, they were here, orbiting a burning sky, on the ground, nestled and charred. Roots and shattered ceramic domes. Specialist Laren knelt in a ruined shelter, rifle pointed low. The family of her huddled behind her, an adult and 3 small ones, 2 injured. One girl had the same blank, stunned eyes Laren remembered seeing in a mirror after Avash outpost. She tightened her jaw. The comms buzzed. Laren, confirm. Secure. Laren pressed the receiver to her throat. Not secure. We need extraction. 5 minutes max before the next sweep. Understood. Ingress team en route. The sky growled above. Atmospheric fighters alien. Triangular, sleek, loud as pride, and just as easy to shoot down if you had the right loadout. Laren didn't. She had 1 shot left on the anti-air and a single hope someone up there was watching her. She didn't look up. She had a job. Deathworlders didn't glance at the heavens and pray. They became the reason others did. In orbit, the Blackridge launched her second strike team. Arlen watched the display as crimson dots dropped through upper layers. Cobalt Lance, Strike Team Zeta, the Hounds. Every call sign rolled off the tongue like a ghost from the old wars. Begin the drift. Arlen ordered. Drift initiated, maneuvering us into kinetic line. That was the part that made the aliens nervous. Deathworlders' ships didn't move. Like others, they didn't pivot. They didn't sail. They drifted slow, controlled, waiting until the enemy thought they were just observing. And then came the impact. The enemy fleet broadcast another message. Arlen played it aloud for the crew. This is the Othel Syndicate. You are violating isolation law. We have jurisdiction. Leave or face fleet-level escalation. Record, Arlen said. Recording, confirmed the AI. This is the Terran Volunteer Defensive Corps. Your forces are actively engaged in war crimes against civilian populations. Under open distress code, your jurisdiction does not exist. Where atrocity reigns, you may leave or be removed permanently. She ended transmission. Silence again, a different kind of silence. Then 1 ship Othel pattern cruiser-powered weapons. Arlen raised 1 finger. Permission granted. Weapons. Free. And the stars exploded. On the surface, Laren saw it happen before she heard it. The sky went white. A lance of fire split the upper atmosphere. No thunder, no roar. Just light so bright it cast shadows behind the clouds. Then the blast wave rolled in. Trees leaned. Smoke turned horizontal. The Othel fighters in the air veered off course in chaos. One slamming into the hillside with a blossom of orange. Laren grabbed the oldest child and pulled them tighter behind cover. Then she heard the familiar sound. Drop shuttle, sleek, black, wide enough for a squad. A Deathworlder icon painted on the side. A red slash across a weeping planet. Laren grinned and waved her arm. Over here. 2 armored figures dropped from the belly of the shuttle, rifles drawn. One swept the perimeter. The other jogged to her. You always know how to make an entrance. Laren muttered, breathless. The lead soldier laughed. Let's get them out. Above. The battle was no longer posturing. It was punishment. The Blackridge fired a rail slug through the nearest carrier, tearing it from nose to stern. Internal atmosphere bloomed out in ribbons. The Othel Syndicate's formation broke instantly. 2 of their ships tried to run. Let them, Arlen said coldly. Record everything. Let the next ones know what happens when they ignore an SOS. Another enemy ship launched missiles. The Blackridge didn't flinch. Her countermeasures danced like silver rain one by one. The warheads popped mid-space, useless. The crew moved like machinery. No panic. Just coordination. Ground teams. Reporting successful extraction of all living civies in Sector 7. Push medical to the forward bay. Yes, Mum. Ready next volley. Armed. Fire. When the last Othel ship burned half-flipped, bleeding sparks into upper orbit, the silence returned. Not that kind of still tension, but a silence of finality. The kind that followed storms. The kind only Deathworlders could deliver with both brutality and strange mercy. Arlen watched the holo map clear. Only friendly IFFs now. The planet beneath was scarred, but alive. The calm buzzed. Commander Arlen, we have a survivor requesting to speak with you. Civilian, claims to be the one who sent the SOS. Arlen blinked. Patch it in. A child's voice. The same from the original call. Less static now. Just tired. Is it over? Yes, Arlen said. It's over. A pause. You came. We always come. Another pause. This one longer. Will you leave us now? Not yet. We'll stay until you're safe, until they know not to come back. Silence again. Then. So Ferlin almost didn't hear it. Thank you. She didn't respond. Didn't need to. The crew resumed operations. Drones moved to scan for hidden survivors. Medical cruisers broke atmosphere. Fire retardant clouds sprayed across burning forests, every move coordinated, efficient, ruthless only in response, compassionate in aftermath. Deathworlders weren't saviors. They were the answer to a question no one wanted to ask. In the galley that evening, Laren sat beside the same squadmate who'd helped extract the children, the one with the easy grin. They're saying we wiped half a fleet in under 2 minutes. Laren sipped her water. Only half? Rumors say one of the Othel's ships scuttled itself rather than face us. She didn't respond. Why do they keep testing us? He asked quietly. Why send the SOS if no one thinks we'll come? Laren looked down at the metal table, fingers curled around the rim of her cup. Because hope, she said, is the only thing louder than fear. And tonight, hope had teeth. They had called it a victory. The kind of blood-soaked triumph that left the stars shaking and the surviving admirals questioning the cost of what they'd done. But to her, it wasn't a victory. It was an ending. And not the kind that earned medals or monuments. The lights of the hospital frigate were too bright, too clean. Every time Sevi turned her head, she caught glimpses of her reflection, pale skin, hollow cheeks, and eyes that couldn't stop searching the door. For him, he should have made it. He promised. Sevi winced as she shifted in the bed. Shrapnel. Scars ran down her left thigh. The medics had offered Reagan grafts, but she'd refused. Let it hurt. Let the ache remind her of the choices made, the lives lost, and the one that still hadn't returned. The door hissed open, but it wasn't him, just another medic, silent and tired. The woman left a tray of synth nutrition and left. Without a word. Sevi didn't blame her. Everyone here had ghosts. Just as she was about to shut her eyes again, the ship jolted. A subtle vibration, but she felt it. Instinctively, a docking maneuver, or retrieval. She rose, for decks below. In the starship's secure hangar, a crowd had gathered. Not the kind that cheered. No, they stood like statues, lining the walls, waiting for the atmosphere seals to finish decompressing. A transport limped in, hull scorched, engines flickering. Deathworlders strike black. Only one ship had gone into the Hellwell and returned. The side ramp dropped with a metallic groan. The first figure that staggered down the ramp didn't wear rank markings, just charred armor, scorched fingers, and blood, so much blood on his jaw. It was him. Not a dream, not a memory, real. Alive. Sevi didn't remember giving orders or even asking. Her legs just carried her, stitches and all, down lift shafts and emergency stairs, until she was sprinting through the hangar, dodging drones, breath catching. When he looked up, he froze. And then he fell to his knees. You idiot, she sobbed, into his shoulder. You weren't supposed to be the one they dragged out last. You weren't supposed to stay behind. His voice was gravel. I wasn't staying behind. I was keeping a promise. Sevi cupped his face. Dirt smeared across his lips. You look like death. Deathworlders have to keep appearances. She laughed. Just once. Then pulled him against her chest. Not caring who saw, not caring that her knees were buckling too. He was here. After the fires, after the fleet, after the horrors, no one outside the command ring would ever know he was here. Alive. They put them both in medical, not by request, by force, but they were in the same room. This time, no walls, no distance, just one wide recovery bed, and to people who'd thought they'd never see each other again. Night came too quickly. Do you ever think about leaving? He asked quietly. After all this? She didn't answer right away. The war was over. Yes, at least this war. But a Deathworlders peace never lasted long. I used to, Sevi whispered, when we were still planning escapes, and not strikes. And now I think, maybe I just want to stop running. He rolled toward her. Their foreheads touched. I didn't fall in love with you on a battlefield, Sevi. I fell in love with you between missions. When we were just tired people in a war we didn't choose. Her throat caught. I used to think love was weakness, she said. That's what they teach us, right? That attachment is distraction. That affection makes you vulnerable. It does. He agreed. She blinked. But it also gave me something to come back to. Something to fight for when I wanted to give up. His voice was hoarse. You were my mission. Her hands slipped into his dot, and that was all either of them needed to say. 3 months later, the council ceremony was grand. Golden tapestries from the empire of the glass spires, vials of atmosphere, gifted from orbital cities, parades and processions from systems that had once feared. Deathworlders, now honoring them. The galaxy still bore scars, but it was healing. And in the shadow of a quiet station, orbiting a sun no one had named yet, Sevi and her partner stepped into a small greenhouse dome. You sure you want this? She asked him. The dome overlooked a terraforming world, just clouds and winds and the hint of ocean forming. He nodded. I don't want to lead fleets anymore. I don't want to fire torpedoes because someone else wrote a report. And what do you want? He looked at her with the softness only she ever got to see. You. The dome's oxygen system hummed softly. Beneath it, a single tree was growing, the first from Earth's archives, planted not with ceremony, but quietly, by their own hands. We'll stay, she said. His voice broke. We'll stay. But the galaxy was never truly still, not even here. A year later, a message reached the dome. A new OS. Not a trick, not a trap, a real plea from a world caught in an old war. Sevi read the coordinates. Her jaw tightened. You're thinking it too, he said behind her. She turned. They didn't need words. They were Deathworlders, and they were still listening. But this time, they wouldn't just answer with a fleet. They'd answer with hope. With healing. And with love.